They said she was broken. They said her body had failed her. Alaric Stone didn't just divorce her, he destroyed her in front of Manhattan's elite, casting her into a winter night with nothing but a suitcase and the clothes on her back. 5 years later, he thought it would be fitting to invite her to his son's inheritance ceremony, a final reminder of the life she could never give him. He expected a broken woman to weep at his gates. But when the doors of the Stone Mansion opened that November evening, the king of Manhattan security didn't see a beggar. He saw a queen, and she wasn't alone. Holding her hand was a boy with Alaric's own ice-blue eyes. The game had changed. Checkmate. The envelope arrived on a gray Tuesday morning in Seattle, heavy cream cardstock embossed with the gold crest of Stone Security Holdings. It sat on Seraphine Ashford's minimalist desk like a grenade with the pin already pulled. She didn't touch it for 3 hours. Her assistant had placed it there at 8 a.m. centered precisely on the glass surface. Now it was 11 and the November rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office. 43 stories below, Seattle moved through its morning oblivious safe ordinary. Seraphine's coffee had gone cold. Her fingers hovered over her keyboard, the quarterly earnings report frozen mid-sentence on her screen. She could feel the envelope's presence like heat from a furnace. Phoenix Innovations had been her resurrection. From nothing, from less than nothing, she had built a company worth $32 million in 4.5 years. Artificial intelligence analytics for supply chain optimization. Boring to most people, beautiful to her. It meant she had value. It meant she could never be thrown away again. Her phone buzzed. A text from Martha Reeves, the woman who had saved her life 5 years ago. Don't open it. Whatever it is, you don't need it. But Seraphine had already reached for the envelope. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. 5 years ago, her hands had shaken for 6 months straight. The wax seal broke with a soft crack. Inside, a single card, engraved calligraphy, formal and cold. By order of the Stone Family Council, you are cordially invited to the presentation ceremony of Owen Alaric Stone, heir apparent to Stone Security Holdings. Your attendance is anticipated, November 18th, 2024. The Stone Estate, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Anticipated, not requested. Anticipated. It was a summons dressed as courtesy. More than that, it was a message. I know where you are. I can reach you whenever I want. You still exist in my world, even if only as a footnote. The memories came anyway, despite 5 years of therapy and meditation and building walls in her mind. She was 21 again. She was kneeling on the marble floor of the Stone family library, surrounded by 12 council members in their expensive suits. The room smelled like old leather and wood polish and her own fear. You are useless to me, Seraphine. Alaric's voice had been worse than anger. It had been empty, clinical. He sat in his grandfather's chair, looking down at her like she was a broken appliance he was returning to the store. An heir to Stone Security Holdings must come from proven bloodlines. Dr. Cross has confirmed it 3 times. You are barren. Your womb is a desert. You will end my family's legacy. She had begged. God, she had begged. The memory still burned like acid in her throat. Alaric, please. We're married. We took vows. We can adopt. We can... I am done trying. His roar had shaken the crystal decanters on the sideboard. The council members had flinched. She had flinched. Isabella Vane stood beside his chair. Beautiful, voluptuous, triumphant Isabella, daughter of Richard Vane, the real estate billionaire. She wore a white dress that showed the slight curve of her stomach. Isabella is already carrying my child, Alaric had announced. She has proven her worth in 4 months. You've proven nothing in 4 years of marriage but your biological inadequacy. The divorce that followed had been designed for maximum humiliation. He made her sign the papers in front of the same council. He had her escorted from the Manhattan penthouse by security men she'd known, men who'd called her Mrs. Stone, who now wouldn't meet her eyes. It was July 2019. The city was sweltering. She had nowhere to go. Her parents had died when she was 19. Alaric had been her whole world. She spent 3 nights in a women's shelter in Brooklyn. On the 4th night, an elderly black woman with kind eyes and lawyer's hands found her crying in a 24-hour diner. Baby girl, Martha Reeves had said, sliding into the booth across from her. You look like someone who just survived a war. I didn't survive, Seraphine had whispered. I'm dead. I just haven't stopped breathing yet. Martha had taken her to Seattle, put her up in a spare room, gave her space to fall apart, and then slowly, agonizingly, to rebuild. 6 weeks after leaving New York, Seraphine missed her period. She thought it was stress. Everything was stress. The clinic was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation office. The nurse had smiled when she came back with the results. 10 weeks along. Congratulations. Seraphine had vomited in the trash can, not from morning sickness, from rage. She'd been pregnant when Alaric threw her out. Pregnant when Dr. Cross told the council she was barren. Pregnant when Isabella stood there with her fake belly and her shark smile. They had lied, or Cross had lied, or someone had paid Cross to lie. For 3 days she'd debated calling Alaric, telling him, demanding answers. Then she'd seen the news, Alaric Stone and Isabella Vane announce engagement. Expected spring wedding. Stone security stock rises on news of Heir. She'd put her phone down, made a different decision. Bought a burner phone, cut all ties to her old life, and disappeared into Seattle's tech scene under her maiden name. On December 12, 2019, she gave birth to a 7-pound baby boy with a full head of dark hair and eyes that were already shifting from newborn blue to something else, something striking. She named him Leo, Lion, because she needed to be brave, and holding him made her feel like maybe she could be. The eyes settled into their final color by his 2nd month. The exact shade that had run in the Stone family for 5 generations. Rare, unmistakable. Mommy, the voice snapped Seraphine back to her office. Leo stood in the doorway holding the hand of her assistant Claire. He wore his favorite dinosaur shirt and light-up sneakers. His preschool backpack dwarfed his small frame. Hey, baby. Seraphine's voice automatically softened. She closed the laptop, shutting away the invitation. How was school? We learned about volcanoes. Leo bounced into the room, releasing Claire's hand. There are mountains that explode. Can we see one? Maybe in Hawaii someday. When someday? Soon. Leo climbed into her lap, still small enough, still young enough that he wanted to. He smelled like graham crackers and playground wood chips. She buried her face in his hair and breathed him in. You're squeezing too tight, he mumbled against her shoulder. Sorry, she loosened her grip. Just missed you. I was only gone 4 hours. 4 hours. 4 years. 5 years. Time was strange. Sometimes she felt like she'd been running forever. Sometimes she felt like she'd never escaped that marble floor in Manhattan. Claire had backed out of the office, understanding without being told. Seraphine was grateful. She'd built a small team of people who understood boundaries. People who didn't ask questions about Leo's father, or why Seraphine never dated, or why her background check showed nothing before 2019. Leo pulled back, studying her face with those impossible eyes. Too intelligent for 4 years old. He'd inherited more than just eye color from the Stone bloodline. Why are you sad? He asked. I'm not sad. You have your sad face, the one you do when you think I'm asleep. Seraphine's throat tightened. She kissed his forehead, buying time. I'm just thinking about work stuff. Boring stuff. Very boring. Then stop thinking about it. He wriggled free, already distracted by the Newton's cradle on her desk. He set it in motion, mesmerized by the clicking rhythm. Can we get pizza for dinner? Sure. With extra cheese. Whatever you want. He grinned, gap-toothed and perfect. Then his attention shifted to the cream envelope lying face up on her desk. He tilted his head, trying to sound out the words. Stone, secure. He gave up. What's the... Seraphine's hand moved faster than thought, flipping the invitation face down. Junk mail. Fancy junk mail? The fanciest. She needed to throw it away, burn it, delete the sender's existence from her life. Going back to New York would be insane. Alaric had made his choice 5 years ago. She'd made hers. They were done. But the invitation had said Owen Alaric Stone, heir apparent, not heir apparent, which meant it wasn't finalized. Which meant the Stone family council, those 12 vultures in their expensive suits, hadn't made their official ruling yet. And if they hadn't ruled, it meant there was still a process. Still a ceremony. Still a moment where everything could change. Seraphine's mind, honed by 4 years of cutthroat tech startups and venture capital negotiations, began to calculate. She saw the board like chess pieces. Alaric, Isabella, Owen, the council, Dr. Cross if he was still alive and still corrupt, and Leo, the piece they didn't know existed. Mommy, your phone is buzzing. She blinked. Martha was calling. Seraphine answered on speaker. Tell me you threw it away, Martha said without preamble. Her voice was gravel and honey, shaped by 68 years in Alabama and Seattle. I'm thinking. That's a no. Seraphine, he invited me to his son's inheritance ceremony. So it's an insult. He wants me to see his perfect family. He wants me to know he won in every way. Then don't go. Don't give him the satisfaction. Seraphine watched Leo play with the Newton's cradle. Click, 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 action and reaction, cause and effect. What if I did go? She said quietly. Martha was silent for 3 seconds. Then, baby girl, no. Hear me out. There's nothing to hear. You walk into that mansion, you're walking back into hell. Alaric Stone is a powerful man with powerful friends. You think he won't destroy you again? He can't destroy me. I'm not the same person. You're still the woman he threw away. That's all they'll see. What if I brought Leo? The silence stretched longer this time. Leo looked up from the cradle, sensing the tension, even if he didn't understand it. Are you out of your mind? Martha's voice had dropped to a whisper. You take that baby anywhere near Alaric Stone and he'll take him from you. He'll use every lawyer, every connection, every dirty trick. You'll lose your son. Not if I prove Owen isn't his. You don't know that Owen isn't his. I know Isabella was already sleeping with someone else. I know Dr. Cross was corrupt enough to lie about my fertility. I know the timeline doesn't add up. Isabella claims she was 3 months pregnant in July 2019, but she didn't show until October, and she didn't give birth until February 2020. That's 9 months from May, not July. Math isn't evidence. It's a start. It's suicide. Seraphine stood pacing to the window. Rain streaked the glass. Seattle was gray and safe and small. New York was sharp and dangerous and where she'd been destroyed. But it was also where the truth lived. I have a DNA test, she said, from Leo's pediatrician. It shows rare genetic markers, the same markers that only appear in 0.02% of the population. That doesn't prove Alaric is the father. It proves Leo has elite bloodline genetics, the kind the Stone family obsesses over. And if I can get a DNA test with Owen, or even just get close enough to see him, she paused. Martha, what if Owen looks nothing like Alaric? And what if he does? What if you're wrong? Then I leave. I saw his perfect family. I go home. But what if I'm right? Martha sighed long and heavy. Why does this matter? You built a good life. Leo is healthy and happy. You don't need Alaric's money or his name or his acknowledgement. You're right. I don't. Then why? Seraphine pressed her forehead against the cold window. 43 stories down, people walk through rain living normal lives, jobs, and families and problems that didn't include being called Barren in front of a council of strangers. Because they lied about me, she said softly. They told everyone I was broken, defective. They destroyed my reputation, my marriage, my sense of self. And somewhere in Manhattan, there are still people who believe I was the problem, that I deserved what happened. And you want to prove them wrong. No, Seraphine turned from the window. Leo had abandoned the Newton's cradle and was drawing on her whiteboard with dry erase markers. Blue circles, red squares, his own logic. I want justice. Not for me, for every woman who's been called barren or broken or useless because her body didn't perform on someone else's timeline. That's a crusade, not a plan. Then I'll make a plan. She could hear Martha breathing on the other end of the line, thinking, calculating. The lawyer's mind that had saved her once before. If you do this, Martha finally said, you do it smart. You don't show up emotional. You don't show up weak. You show up like the CEO you are now with evidence and strategy and a way out. Agreed. And you don't take Leo into danger. If things go bad, he stays with me. Okay. I mean it, Seraphine. These people destroyed you once. I won't watch them do it again. They won't. She said it with more certainty than she felt. I'm not that girl anymore. No, you're a mother now, which means you have more to lose. After Martha hung up, Seraphine stood in her office while Leo drew incomprehensible masterpieces on her whiteboard. The rain had slowed to mist. The city looked softer now, wrapped in clouds. She picked up the invitation again. November 18th. That gave her 12 days to investigate, to build a case, to find proof that Dr. Cross had lied, that Isabella had cheated, that Owen was a fraud. 12 days to transform from a woman hiding in Seattle to someone who could walk into the Stone mansion with her head high and her son's hand in hers. 12 days to prepare for war. She pulled out her phone and opened a secure browser. First search, Dr. Raymond Cross, Manhattan. Current location. Current practice. Current vulnerabilities. Second search, Isabella Vane Stone. Social media, public records, photos of Owen. Looking for inconsistencies. Looking for proof. Third search, Stone Security Holdings financial records. Public filings. Board members. Council composition. Who could be bought? Who could be convinced? Who might remember that she'd been kind before she was broken? Mommy, look, Leo had drawn a house. Lopsided and cheerful with a triangle roof and square windows and stick figures inside. 3 of them. Who's that? She asked, pointing to the tallest stick figure. That's you. And the small one, that's me. And the medium one, Leo shrugged. I don't know. Maybe a friend. A friend, or a father, or a ghost. Seraphine saved the searches to a password-protected folder. Then she opened her calendar and blocked out November 18th. She wasn't just going to attend the ceremony. She was going to destroy it. But first, she needed to make a phone call she'd been avoiding for 5 years. She pulled out her laptop and opened a database she'd subscribed to 3 years ago but never used. Skip tracing, private investigation. The kind of searches that require disclaimers and liability waivers. She typed in a name, Kalen Morrison. He'd been Alaric's head of security, his best friend since childhood. The man who'd personally escorted her from the penthouse that July night, his face expressionless as she'd begged him to talk to Alaric to make him listen. If anyone knew the truth about Isabella's pregnancy, it would be Kalen. He saw everything. He knew everyone's secrets. The database churned for 30 seconds, then populated results. Kalen Morrison, age 35. Last known address, a condo in Tribeca. Employment still listed as Director of Personal Security, Stone Security Holdings. Still working for Alaric. Still loyal, or still trapped. Seraphine pulled out her personal phone, not the work phone, not the burner phone she'd used for 5 years, but a new phone she bought that afternoon. Untraceable. Clean. She typed out a message to Kalen's listed number. I know what Isabella did. I have proof. If you want to talk before the council finds out, meet me in New York. November 16th. The Carlisle Hotel, 8 p.m. Come alone or don't come at all. She stared at the message for 5 minutes. This was the point of no return. Send this text and she was declaring war. Keep silent and she could stay safe. Leo laughed at something on her whiteboard. He'd added a sun to the drawing, yellow and enormous, taking up half the sky. Seraphine hit send. The message showed as delivered. Then 3 minutes later, read. No response. But he'd seen it. That was enough. She looked at her on still drawing his impossible sons and crooked houses and made a silent promise. Whatever happened in New York, whatever she had to face or fight or endure, Leo would never know what it felt like to be called broken. He would never be thrown away. And the people who tried to erase her would learn that some women don't stay buried. Some women rise. The flight from Seattle to New York took 5 hours and 40 minutes. Seraphine didn't sleep. She sat in seat 12A of the Alaska Airlines red-eye. Leo curled against her shoulder in exhausted sleep and watched the country pass beneath them in patches of light and darkness. Martha had insisted on coming. She sat across the aisle, her reading glasses perched on her nose, reviewing printed documents in a leather portfolio. Legal precedents, DNA testing protocols, New York family law statutes. Stop staring at him, Martha murmured without looking up from her papers. I'm not staring. You've checked his breathing 17 times since takeoff. Seraphine looked away from Leo's sleeping face. His mouth was slightly open, one hand clutching his stuffed dinosaur. He'd named it Spike. Spike had been through 3 wash cycles and emergency surgery to reattach an arm. What if I'm wrong? Seraphine whispered. Now Martha did look up. Her eyes were sharp behind the glasses. About what? About all of it. The DNA, the timeline, Isabella. What if Owen really is Alaric's son, and I'm just a bitter ex-wife looking for revenge? Are you looking for revenge? I don't know, maybe. Martha closed the portfolio. The cabin was dark except for scattered reading lights. Most passengers slept. A baby cried somewhere in the back. Let me tell you what I know, Martha said. I know that girl I found in that diner 5 years ago was 21 years old and wanted to die. I know she had bruises on her knees from begging. I know she'd lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks because she couldn't keep food down from the stress. Seraphine's throat tightened. I also know, Martha continued, that the woman sitting in this seat built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing, raised a brilliant child alone, survived when survival should have been impossible. She leaned forward. So no, baby girl, you're not wrong. Your instincts kept you alive this long. Trust them now. The plane hit turbulence. Leo stirred but didn't wake. Seraphine tightened her grip on him, protective even in sleep. Kalen never responded, she said. Doesn't mean he won't show. Or it means he told Alaric everything and we're walking into a trap. Then we spring the trap and survive it, like we always do. Martha said it with such casual certainty that Seraphine almost believed her. They landed at JFK at 6:15 a.m. The sky was the color of old bruises, purple and gray. New York in November felt different from Seattle. Sharper, more aggressive. The air itself seemed to carry an edge. Seraphine had booked a suite at the Mark on the Upper East Side, not close to Stone territory that was farther south in Tribeca, but expensive enough to send a message. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't ashamed. Leo woke up in the taxi pressing his face against the window as Manhattan unfolded around them. It's so tall, he breathed. Taller than Seattle. Way taller. Do people live in the clouds? Almost. He watched the city with wide eyes. Seraphine watched him memorizing this moment. His first time seeing the city where he was conceived, where his father lived, where his legacy waited like a loaded gun. The hotel suite had 2 bedrooms, a living room with park views and marble bathrooms that cost more per night than Seraphine used to make in a month. She'd charged it to her corporate card. Phoenix Innovations could afford it now. She could afford it now. Martha took Leo to explore the amenities. He was thrilled by the bathroom with the TV and the mirror, while Seraphine unpacked. She hung up the dress she'd brought for the inheritance ceremony. Midnight blue custom-made cut to make her look powerful and untouchable. It had cost $4,000. She'd bought it specifically for this. Armor. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Carlisle, tonight, 8 p.m., I'll be there. Kalen. Seraphine sat on the edge of the California king bed and stared at the message. Her hands wanted to shake. She wouldn't let them. She typed back, come alone. If I see anyone else, I'm gone. The response came immediately, understood. She had 14 hours. The morning passed in careful preparation. Martha took Leo to the Natural History Museum. He wanted to see the dinosaurs while Seraphine met with the private investigator she'd hired 2 weeks ago. His name was James Chen, former NYPD, now private sector. He worked out of a nondescript office in Midtown that smelled like coffee and old paper files. Mrs. Ashford? He stood when she entered, extending a hand. Mid-50s gray at the temples, kind eyes that had seen too much. Thank you for coming in person. What did you find? He gestured to a chair across from his desk. A manila folder sat between them, thick with documents. Let's start with Dr. Raymond Cross. Chen opened the folder. He's still practicing. Park Avenue office, high-end clientele. Specializes in fertility and obstetrics for Manhattan's elite. So he's still lying to rich people. Possibly, but here's where it gets interesting. Chen pulled out a bank statement. In June 2019, Dr. Cross received a wire transfer of $5 million from an offshore account registered to Vane Holdings, LLC. Seraphine leaned forward. Richard Vane, Isabella's father. Correct. The transfer happened on June 12, 2019. According to your timeline, that's 3 days before you were examined by Dr. Cross and declared infertile. He was paid to lie. That's the implication. But proving it requires more than a bank transfer. We need testimony, documentation, medical records. Cross won't testify against Isabella. She owns him. Maybe, maybe not. Chen pulled out another document. This one was a credit card statement. Dr. Cross has significant gambling debts, Atlantic City mostly. He's into several bookies for close to $2 million. The Vane family has been covering his debts for 5 years. So Isabella has leverage. And so do we. Gambling debts make people desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Seraphine studied the documents. Numbers, dates, evidence of corruption that should feel like victory but instead felt like confirmation of what she'd always known. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't broken. She'd been systematically destroyed by people who saw her as an obstacle. What about Owen? She asked. Chen's expression shifted. Careful now. This was the sensitive part. Owen Vane Stone, born February 15, 2020, at Mount Sinai Hospital. Birth certificate lists Alaric Stone as father, Isabella Vane as mother. Weight 7 pounds, 3 ounces, no complications. That's 9 months from May 2019, not July. Correct. If Isabella was truly 3 months pregnant in July 2019, as she claimed to the Stone Council, she would have given birth in January or early February at the latest. February 15th suggests conception in mid to late May, which means she lied about how far along she was to make Alaric believe she was already pregnant when she announced it. Exactly. She needed him desperate enough to believe her without question. Chen pulled out a photograph. It showed a young boy, maybe 5 years old, with brown hair and brown eyes. He was standing between Alaric and Isabella at what looked like a charity gala. The boy looked small for his age, uncertain, nothing like Leo's confident grin or striking eyes. Owen, Chen said, recent photo from a Stone Holdings press event. Notice anything? Seraphine studied the image. Owen had Isabella's nose, her chin, her coloring. But Alaric's features, the strong jaw, the particular set of the eyes, the genetic markers that had defined 5 generations of Stones were absent. He doesn't look like Alaric at all. No, he doesn't. Which could mean nothing. Genetics are unpredictable, or it could mean everything. I need a DNA test. That's difficult without consent. You'd need a sample from Owen, which means access. The Stone family is notoriously private. I'm going to the inheritance ceremony on the 18th. Chen's eyebrows rose. That's bold. It's necessary. They invited me, which means I have legitimate access. If I can get close to Owen, even for a moment, a glass he drank from a napkin he used, that's legally questionable for chain of custody, but it would be enough for a private test. Not admissible in court, but enough to know the truth. Truth first, court later. Chen closed the folder and slid it across the desk to her. Everything's in here. Bank records, timelines, photographs, witness statements from hospital staff I interviewed. It's not conclusive proof of fraud, but it's a foundation. Seraphine took the folder. It was heavy. The weight of truth usually was. One more thing, Chen said. I've been watching Kalen Morrison. And he's scared. He's been working late, making unusual phone calls. 2 days ago, he met with a lawyer who specializes in whistleblower protection. Seraphine's pulse quickened. He's thinking about talking. Or he's covering his tracks. But yes, I'd say Mr. Morrison is approaching a crisis of conscience. That evening, Seraphine dressed carefully for the meeting with Kalen. Black slacks, a silk blouse, minimal jewelry. She looked professional, unthreatening. A businesswoman, not a vengeful ex-wife. Martha stayed at the hotel with Leo. Before Seraphine left, she knelt down to her son's level. I have to go to a work meeting, okay? I'll be back before bedtime. Leo barely looked up from the tablet Martha had given him. He was watching a documentary about volcanoes. Okay, Mommy. Be good for Martha. I'm always good. She kissed his forehead. He smelled like the hotel's fancy shampoo, already adapting. Children were resilient that way. Seraphine, Martha caught her arm at the door. If this goes bad, it won't. But if it does, you leave. You don't engage. You don't fight. You walk away, and we regroup. I know. I'm serious. These people are dangerous. So am I. Martha's expression softened. No, baby girl. You're determined. There's a difference. Dangerous people don't feel guilt. You still do. Seraphine didn't argue because Martha was right. She did feel guilt about taking Leo to New York, about potentially disrupting his peaceful life, about the small, shameful part of her that wanted Alaric to see what he'd thrown away and suffer for it. Revenge and justice looked similar from certain angles. The Carlisle Hotel bar was old money and quiet confidence. Dark wood leather booths, a pianist playing something soft and melancholy in the corner. Seraphine arrived 15 minutes early and chose a booth in the back with a view of the entrance. She ordered a vodka tonic she had no intention of drinking. Kalen Morrison arrived at exactly 8 p.m. She recognized him immediately despite the 5 years. Tall, broad-shouldered, military bearing. He'd been Special Forces before joining Stone Security. His face was harder now, more lined. He scanned the room with professional efficiency before his eyes found her. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the dimly lit bar. He'd been there that night. He'd watched her beg. He'd escorted her out with his hand on her elbow, gentle but firm, while she'd sobbed. He'd done nothing to stop it. Kalen walked to the booth and sat across from her without asking permission. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Whatever he'd been doing for the past 5 years, it hadn't brought him peace. Seraphine. His voice was exactly as she remembered, deep, controlled, the voice of a man trained to stay calm in combat. Kalen, you look good, different. I am different. The waiter approached, but Kalen waved him away. They sat in silence for a moment. The pianist transitioned into something sadder. You said you have proof, Kalen finally said. About Isabella. I do. Show me. Seraphine pulled out her phone and opened a secure folder. She slid it across the table. Bank records. $5 million from Richard Vane to Dr. Cross. Dated 3 days before Cross had examined me and declared me infertile. Kalen studied the screen. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Confirmation. This doesn't prove Isabella knew, he said carefully. Her father's money, her timeline, her benefit. Of course she knew. Alaric will say it's circumstantial. Is it? Kalen handed back the phone. He looked at his hands, large hands, scarred knuckles. Security work left marks. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth. Owen is the Alaric's son. Kalen's silence was answer enough. You know he isn't, Seraphine pressed. You've known for years. I don't know anything for certain. But you suspect. Yes. White, Kalen ran a hand through his hair. Gray there too premature, aging from stress and secrets. Owen doesn't look like Alaric. At all. Not even a little. I've seen photographs of Alaric at that age. Different bone structure. Different everything. Isabella says he takes after her family, but he shook his head. I've worked for the Stones for 15 years. I know their genetics. The eyes especially. Every Stone for 5 generations has had those blue eyes. Owen's are brown. Recessive genes exist. Not in the Stone line. It's documented. Genetic testing going back 100 years. The blue eyes are dominant, passed down from Alaric's great-great-grandfather. They don't skip. Seraphine's heart was pounding now. So Owen can't be Alaric's biological son? Unless he's some kind of genetic anomaly, or unless someone's lying. Who's the father, do you know? Kaelin met her eyes. The weight of what he was about to say hung between them. I don't know for certain, he said slowly, but I have suspicions I've never voiced. Tell me. Isabella Vane is a sociopath, he said quietly. I've known that for years. She wanted Alaric's money and his name. She wanted the Stone legacy. She would have done anything to get it, including faking a pregnancy. I don't know if she faked the pregnancy, but I know the timeline was wrong. She told Alaric she was 3 months along in July. I was there for that conversation, but I'd seen her drinking heavily at a charity event in late June. Cocktail champagne, not the behavior of a pregnant woman. Did you tell Alaric? I tried. He didn't want to hear it. He was devastated about you, about the fertility diagnosis. Isabella gave him hope, a way forward. He needed to believe her. So you stayed silent. I had no proof, just suspicions. Kaelin's voice was bitter now. And yeah, I was a coward. Alaric was my best friend. I didn't want to be the one to destroy his second chance at happiness. Even though his first chance was destroyed by lies. I didn't know they were lies then. Cross is one of the best fertility specialists in the country. Why would I doubt him? Because you knew me. You knew I wasn't the kind of person who'd lie about wanting children. Kaelin looked away. You're right. I should have questioned it. I should have done more. And I've regretted it every day for 5 years. The admission hung between them. Seraphine wanted to feel satisfaction. He admitted his guilt, his failure. But she felt only tired. Seraphine made a decision. She pulled up another photo on her phone. This one showed Leo at his 4th birthday party grinning at the camera with frosting on his nose. His eyes, those impossible, brilliant blue eyes, caught the light like gemstones. She turned the phone around. This is my son, Leo. He's 4 years old, born December 12, 2019. Kaelin stared at the photo. The color drained from his face. Jesus Christ, he whispered. Do you see it? He looks exactly like Alaric did at that age. The eyes, the jaw, everything. Kaelin's hand was shaking slightly. You were pregnant. When Alaric threw you out, you were pregnant. 10 weeks. Cross lied about my fertility. I don't know if he ran the tests wrong deliberately or if Isabella paid him to falsify results. But I was never infertile. I proved that by having Leo 6 months later. Does Alaric know? No, I disappeared. I changed my name back to Ashford. I built a new life in Seattle. Alaric Stone doesn't know his real son exists. Why are you telling me this? Because I need an ally. Someone inside Stone Security who knows the truth. Someone who can help me prove Owen is a fraud. Kaelin leaned back in the booth. He looked like a man who'd just had his worst fears confirmed. If you're right, he said slowly, if Owen isn't Alaric's son and Leo is, then Isabella has committed fraud on a massive scale. She's stolen a fortune. She's manipulated Alaric for 5 years. The council will destroy her. Good. But proving it requires DNA evidence, court-admissible evidence. You can't just show up with a 4-year-old and claim he's the heir. I know, that's why I need your help. Seraphine leaned forward. The inheritance ceremony is in 2 days. I'm invited. I'm going to attend, and I'm bringing Leo. I need you to help me get close enough to Owen to obtain a DNA sample. Hair, saliva, anything that can be tested. That's risky. If Isabella sees Leo, she'll panic. Good. Panicked people make mistakes. Or they do desperate things. Seraphine, these people tried to destroy you once. If they see you as a threat to Owen's inheritance, they won't hesitate to destroy you again. And this time they'll go after Leo too. Let them try. Kaelin studied her face. You're not the same woman I escorted out of that penthouse. No, I'm not. You're harder. I'm a mother. We don't have the luxury of softness." He was quiet for a long moment. The pianist had stopped playing. The bar was nearly empty now, just a few late diners finishing wine in the corner. "I'll help you," Kalen finally said, "but on one condition." "What?" "When this is over, when the truth comes out, and Isabella is exposed, Alaric gets to meet his son. Not as a weapon, not as revenge, but as a father who deserves to know his child exists." Seraphine's first instinct was to refuse. Alaric had thrown her away. He'd called her Barren. He'd chosen to believe lies over his own wife. But then she thought about Leo, about the drawing he'd made on her whiteboard with the 3 stick figures, about how he sometimes asked why he didn't have a daddy like other kids. "If and only if Alaric proves he's changed," she said. "If he shows remorse. If he accepts responsibility for what he did to me. Then yes, Leo deserves a father." Agreed. They shook hands across the table. His grip was firm, the handshake of soldiers forming an alliance. "One more thing," Kalen said as he stood to leave. "Be careful of Damian Sterling. The tech CEO. Yeah, he's been sniffing around Stone Holdings for years looking for weaknesses. He has spies in our organization. If he finds out about Leo, he'll use that information to destroy Alaric and take over the company. I don't care about Sterling. You should. He's dangerous in different ways than Isabella. She's driven by greed and status. Sterling is driven by pure ego. He wants to win, and he especially wants to beat Alaric." Seraphine filed that information away. Another piece, another player on the board. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right." Kalen paused at the edge of the booth. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For that night, for not questioning Cross, for not fighting harder for you. Apologies don't change the past. No, but maybe they can change the future." He left. Seraphine sat alone in the booth, her vodka tonic untouched and watered down. She felt the weight of what was coming. The inheritance ceremony wasn't just about exposing Isabella or reclaiming her reputation. It was about Leo's future, his identity, his right to know where he came from, and it was about Alaric finally facing the consequences of his choices. She paid the bill and walked out into the November night. New York was alive with light and noise. Taxis honked. People shouted. Steam rose from subway grates like the city itself was breathing. Somewhere in this sprawling maze of steel and ambition, Alaric Stone was living his life, playing father to a child who wasn't his, building a legacy on a foundation of lies. In 2 days, that foundation would crack. Seraphine pulled out her phone and texted Martha. "Meeting went well. We have an ally. Stage 2 begins tomorrow." Martha's response came immediately. "Leo is asleep, asking about you. Come home soon." Home, funny word. For 4 years, home had been Seattle. Before that, it had been the Stone penthouse in Tribeca. Before that, a dorm room at NYU. Home kept moving. Maybe home was just wherever Leo was. She caught a taxi back to the Mark. In the backseat, she opened the folder James Chen had given her and studied the photograph of Owen again. Small, uncertain. A child who had no idea he was at the center of a conspiracy. She felt a pang of sympathy for him. None of this was his fault. He was as much a victim of Isabella's lies as anyone. But sympathy wouldn't change the truth. And the truth was about to destroy everything the Stone family had built. The taxi turned onto Madison Avenue. The hotel glowed ahead, warm and safe. Martha would be reading in the suite. Leo would be asleep with Spike tucked under his arm. Tomorrow, Seraphine would begin the final preparations. Hair appointment. Final fitting for the dress. Rehearsing what she'd say when she walked into that mansion. Tomorrow, she'd transform from Seraphine Ashford, Seattle CEO, back into someone the Stone family would recognize. Not as the broken girl they'd thrown away, but as the woman who came back to burn their empire down. The Stone mansion in Jackson Hole sat at the base of the Teton Range like a monument to old money and older power. Seraphine had only seen it once before during the brief 4 months of her marriage when Alaric had brought her here for a family gathering. She'd been 21 and terrified trying to memorize which fork to use and which council member to avoid. Now she stood in front of the full-length mirror in her hotel suite looking at a different woman entirely. The midnight blue dress fit like a second skin. Custom tailored, structured at the shoulders, flowing at the knees. It cost more than her first car. She'd paired it with simple diamond studs, the only jewelry she'd kept from her marriage, and black heels that added 3 inches to her height. Her hair fell in dark waves past her shoulders. Professional makeup emphasized her eyes, made her look older than 26. Powerful. Untouchable. Martha stood behind her, adjusting an invisible wrinkle. "You look like you're going to war." "I am." Then you're dressed appropriately. Leo sat on the couch swinging his legs and watching cartoons. He wore a miniature suit that made him look absurdly formal. Navy blue jacket, tiny tie shoes that were already scuffed from 30 minutes of wear. He kept tugging at the collar. Do I have to wear this? He complained for the fifth time. Yes, Seraphine said, checking her clutch. Phone, lipstick. The DNA collection kit James Chen had provided sterile swabs in a sealed case small enough to hide in her palm. Why from? Because we're going to a fancy party. I don't like fancy parties. You've never been to one. Then how do I know I don't like them? Seraphine smiled despite her nerves. Excellent logic. You'll fit right in with the lawyers. The private car arrived at 4 p.m. Seraphine had hired a driver with security clearance, another of Chen's recommendations. The man was former Secret Service, now private sector. He drove a black Mercedes SUV with bulletproof glass. Excessive, maybe. But Seraphine remembered what Kalen had said. These people tried to destroy you once. She wasn't taking chances. The drive from Jackson to the Stone estate took 40 minutes. Leo pressed his face against the window, watching Wyoming unfold around them. Mountains, snow, elk grazing in distant fields. Is this where my daddy lives? He asked suddenly. Seraphine's heart stopped. What? You said we're visiting family. Is my daddy here? She exchanged a glance with Martha in the rearview mirror. They'd agreed not to tell Leo the full truth. Not yet. He was 4. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that his father doesn't know he exists? Maybe, Seraphine said carefully. We'll see. What does he look like? Tall, dark hair, blue eyes like yours. Leo considered this. Is he nice? The question gutted her. Is Alaric nice? He'd been kind once before. Ambition and family pressure twisted him into someone who could throw away a wife like defective merchandise. I don't know anymore, she answered honestly. People change. Did you change? Yes. Are you nicer now or meaner? Martha laughed softly. Seraphine reached over and ruffled Leo's hair. What do you think? I think you're nice, but also scary when someone's mean to me. That's called being a mother. Oh. He went back to watching the mountains. Crisis averted, for now. The Stone estate appeared around a curve in the road like something from a different century. 3 stories of timber and stone glass walls overlooking the valley, smoke rising from multiple chimneys. The main house could sleep 30. The grounds included a stable, a guest house, a private lake. Alaric's grandfather had built it in the 1950s with money from government security contracts. Every Stone patriarch since had expanded it, added to it, used it as proof of the family's ascension. Cars lined the circular driveway. Range Rovers, Teslas. A vintage Bentley that probably cost more than Seraphine's condo. The security elite had gathered. The inheritance ceremony was invitation only. 50 guests, council members, business partners, a few carefully selected politicians. The event would be covered by financial press, but closed to general media. The Stones valued privacy almost as much as they valued power. Their driver pulled up to the entrance. A valet opened Seraphine's door. She stepped out into the cold Wyoming air, her breath misting. Showtime. Martha helped Leo out of his side. He immediately grabbed Seraphine's hand, intimidated by the massive house and the well-dressed strangers moving through the entrance. It's okay, Seraphine whispered. Stay close to me. They walked through the front doors into a vaulted great room that took Seraphine's breath away despite her preparation. 20-foot ceilings, exposed timber beams, a stone fireplace large enough to stand in. The far wall was entirely glass, framing the Tetons in the dying afternoon light. And people, everywhere. Men in expensive suits, women in cocktail dresses and pearls, servers circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The low hum of conversation mixed with classical music from a string quartet in the corner. Seraphine's arrival caused a ripple effect. Conversations paused. Heads turned. She felt the weight of their stares like physical pressure. They recognized her. Of course they did. Some of these people had been at her wedding. Some had been at the council meeting where Alaric destroyed her. They were wondering why she was here, what game she was playing. Good, let them wonder. A server approached with champagne. Seraphine took a glass she wouldn't drink. Martha declined. Leo stared at the chandelier above them, actual crystal, probably worth more than a car. Seraphine Ashford. The voice came from behind her, male, smooth, vaguely familiar. She turned and found herself face to face with Damian Sterling. He was exactly as his photos suggested. Tall, blonde, expensive suit that screamed Silicon Valley money trying to pass his East Coast class. He held a champagne flute in one hand and his smile was all teeth. Mr. Sterling, Seraphine kept her voice neutral. I didn't expect to see you here. I could say the same. I thought you were living in Seattle these days. Tech startup, isn't it? Phoenix something. Phoenix Innovations. AI Analytics. Ah, yes, I've heard good things. Impressive for someone who was completely broke 5 years ago. The insult was wrapped in compliment. Martha tensed beside her, but Seraphine just smiled. Bankruptcy teaches you efficiency, she said. You learn to build with nothing. Very character building. I'm sure. Damien's eyes dropped to Leo, who was half hiding behind Seraphine's dress. And who's this, my son, Leo? Handsome boy. Damien crouched down, trying to appear friendly. How old are you, Leo? Leo looked at Seraphine for permission. She nodded slightly. 4, Leo mumbled. 4, big guy. Do you like computers? Leo shrugged. Damien straightened his smile, never quite reaching his eyes. He's shy, Seraphine said. Natural at his age. Interesting timing, though. Damien took a sip of champagne. 4 years old. So you were pregnant when the marriage ended? Yes. Did Alaric know? No. Fascinating. Damien's tone suggested it was anything but fascinating. It was strategic information. A weapon. I imagine seeing him tonight will be emotional for you both. I imagine it will. If you need anything support legal advice, a friendly ear, I hope you'll reach out. Stone Holdings and Sterling Tech have been competitors for years, but that doesn't mean we can't be civilized. Translation. I want to know everything about why you're here so I can use it against Alaric. That's kind of you, Seraphine said, meaning the opposite. Damien pulled out a business card, embossed, heavy stock. My private number, anytime. Well, she took it to be polite, already planning to throw it away. Damien drifted back into the crowd, schmoozing with someone else. Martha leaned close. I don't like him. Neither do I, but he's not our problem tonight. Everyone here is our problem. She wasn't wrong. The room felt hostile despite the civilized veneer. These people had watched Seraphine's humiliation 5 years ago. Some had probably enjoyed it. Now she was back uninvited and unexplained with the child who had Alaric's eyes. The whispers were already starting. Mommy, I'm thirsty, Leo said. Seraphine flagged down a server and got him apple juice and a champagne flute. He thought that was hilarious. She used the moment to scan the room looking for targets. Elder Thomas stood near the fireplace speaking with 2 other council members. He was the family historian, the keeper of bloodline records. His opinion would matter when it came to challenging Owen's legitimacy. Kalen Morrison was positioned near the main staircase, dressed in a dark suit, radio earpiece visible. Head of security. He caught her eye across the room and gave the smallest nod. The ally was in place. And then she saw him. Alaric Stone stood on the second-floor balcony, looking down at the gathering. He wore a charcoal suit, no tie, his dark hair slightly longer than she remembered. He was in conversation with someone she couldn't see, but even from this distance, she could read the tension in his shoulders. He hadn't seen her yet. Seraphine felt her pulse kick up despite 5 years of preparation. This was the man who'd destroyed her. The man who'd called her useless and barren and thrown her into a winter night without looking back. This was also the man she'd loved enough to marry. The man whose child she'd raised alone. And he had no idea. There's Isabella, Martha murmured. Seraphine followed her gaze. Isabella Vainstone descended the main staircase like she was being filmed for a magazine shoot. Red dress, diamonds. Every inch of her screamed wealth and victory, and holding her hand was a small boy with brown hair and brown eyes. Owen. Seraphine's breath caught. The child looked younger than 5, small for his age. He clung to Isabella's hand with obvious nervousness, overwhelmed by the crowd. Not a villain, just a scared little boy. Isabella reached the bottom of the staircase and immediately began working the room, introducing Owen to various council members and business partners. The boy was clearly uncomfortable, but Isabella kept him moving, kept him performing. A prop. That's all Owen was to her. A 5-year-old prop in a multi-million-dollar fraud. I need to get closer, Seraphine said quietly to Martha. Not yet. Let them come to you. We don't have time for Seraphine. The voice froze her blood. She turned slowly. Alaric Stone stood 10 feet away, champagne forgotten in his hand. He stared at her like she was a ghost, like she was something impossible that had walked through his walls. Hello, Alaric, she said. His eyes traveled from her face to Martha to Leo. When he saw Leo's face, when he saw those eyes, he actually stumbled backward. That's... His voice failed. He tried again. That's not possible. And yet, people nearby had noticed the interaction. Conversations were dying. The room's attention was shifting toward them like a wave. Alaric moved closer, his gaze locked on Leo. How old is he? 4. When was he born? December 12th, 2019. The math was simple, devastating. Alaric's face went pale. You were pregnant, he whispered. When I, when we, when you threw me out, yes, 10 weeks. But Cross lied. Someone paid him $5 million to say I was infertile. Someone who needed you to believe I was broken so you'd be desperate enough to accept a replacement. Alaric's eyes cut to Isabella across the room, then back to Leo. The resemblance was impossible to miss. Same bone structure, same eyes, same presence. Does he know? Alaric asked hoarsely. Does he know I'm his father? He knows his father lives in New York. He doesn't know his father abandoned his mother. The word hit like a slap. Alaric flinched. Seraphine, I didn't know. If I had known, you would have what kept me out of obligation. That's not how I want to be chosen, Alaric. I want to be believed, trusted. You chose to trust a piece of paper over your wife. I made a mistake. You made a choice. The crowd was definitely watching now. Isabella had stopped mid-conversation, her face a mask of confusion and dawning horror. She was looking at Leo, seeing the eyes, understanding the threat. Elder Thomas detached from his group and approached. At 82, he moved slowly but with purpose. His presence commanded immediate respect. Seraphine Ashford, he said in his gravelly voice. We wondered if you'd actually attend. The invitation said my presence was anticipated. A courtesy we didn't expect you to accept. His sharp eyes moved to Leo. And who is this young man, my son, Leo Ashford? Hello, Leo. Elder Thomas extended his hand formally. Leo, uncertain, shook it. You have distinctive eyes. My mommy says they're special. Indeed they are. I've only seen eyes that color in one family. He looked at Alaric, then back to Leo. How very interesting. Isabella arrived in a rustle of red silk, Owen stumbling along behind her. Up close, she looked older than 33. Botox and stress. Her smile was sharp enough to cut. Seraphine, what a surprise. I didn't realize you were coming. I was invited. Of course. How gracious of you to attend Owen's celebration. Isabella pulled Owen forward. Owen, say hello to our guest. Owen looked at Seraphine with wide, nervous eyes. Hello. Hello, Owen. The two boys stared at each other. The contrast was striking. Leo confident despite his shyness, standing tall. Owen smaller and uncertain, hiding behind his mother's leg. They didn't look like brothers. They didn't look like they belonged to the same world. And this is your son. Isabella's voice was sugar over glass. How old? 4. Same age as Owen. Isn't that a coincidence? She was fishing, trying to understand the threat. Not really. They were conceived around the same time. Isabella's mask slipped for just a second. Rage flashed in her eyes before she covered it with another bright smile. Well, children are such blessings. She squeezed Owen's shoulder hard enough that he winced. Perhaps they can play together while the adults discuss business. I'd rather keep Leo with me. Suit yourself. Isabella turned to Alaric, her voice dropping to a possessive purr. Darling, shouldn't we begin? The council is waiting. Alaric looked torn between Seraphine, Leo, and his obligations. Yes, in a moment. The ceremony starts at 5. It's 4:45. I said in a moment, Isabella. The snap in his voice surprised at everyone. Isabella's smile froze. She wasn't used to being dismissed. Of course, I'll make sure everything's ready. She swept away, dragging Owen behind her. The boy looked back, once curious about Leo. Elder Thomas cleared his throat. Perhaps we should speak privately before the ceremony begins. The 3 of you. My study. 5 minutes. It wasn't a request. The elder's study was all dark wood and leather bookshelves filled with family histories and bloodline records. Portraits of dead stones stared down from the walls with judgmental eyes. Martha waited outside with Leo. Inside, it was just Seraphine, Alaric, and Elder Thomas. The old man settled into his chair behind the massive desk. Would someone like to explain what's happening? I'll explain, Seraphine said before Alaric could speak. 5 years ago, I was examined by Dr. Raymond Cross and declared infertile. Based on that diagnosis, Alaric divorced me and married Isabella Vane, who claimed to be pregnant with his child. I'm aware of the history. What you're not aware of it is that Cross was paid $5 million by Richard Vane to falsify my results. I was never infertile. I proved that by giving birth to Leo 6 months after the divorce. Elder Thomas's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. That's a serious accusation. I have bank records, wire transfers, dates that correspond with my examination. Why didn't you come forward 5 years ago? Because I was 21, terrified and homeless. Because Alaric had made it clear I was worthless to him. Because I didn't know yet that the results were fake. I only learned that after Leo was born. Alaric stood by the window, his back to them. If this is true, he said quietly, if Cross was paid to lie, then Isabella committed fraud, Seraphine finished. And Owen might not be your biological son. Alaric turned. You can't know that. Look at him, Alaric. Really look. He has brown eyes, brown hair. He looks nothing like you, nothing like any stone in 5 generations. Genetics are complicated. Not that complicated. The stone blue eyes are a dominant trait. It's documented. You know this. Elder Thomas leaned forward. She's correct. The marker has been studied. It doesn't skip generations. If Owen were truly Alaric's son, he would almost certainly have the eyes. Unless he's a statistical anomaly, Alaric insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. Or unless he's not your son. Seraphine pulled out her phone and showed them the photograph James Chen had taken. Owen at a press event standing between Alaric and Isabella. Look at this. Really look. Whose features does he have? Alaric stared at the photo. His hands were shaking slightly. Isabella's, he finally whispered. He has all of Isabella's features. And none of yours, because he's not yours, Alaric. Leo is. She pulled up the photo of Leo at his birthday party. The resemblance to young Alaric was undeniable. Elder Thomas studied both photos through his reading glasses. The similarity is remarkable. It's more than similarity, it's genetic truth. Seraphine's voice was steady, clinical. I'm proposing we conduct DNA testing, official court-admissible testing. Both boys. Compared to Alaric, we'll know the truth within 72 hours. That's a massive accusation to make publicly, Elder Thomas said. Then make it privately. Test them quietly. But test them. Alaric turned to her, his expression raw. Why now? Why come back after 5 years? Because you invited me to watch you celebrate a lie. Because I'm tired of living in hiding while you build a legacy on fraud. And because Leo deserves to know his father if his father deserves to know him. I didn't know you were pregnant. You didn't ask. You didn't question Cross. You didn't trust your own wife. Seraphine's composure cracked slightly. You chose to believe I was broken because it was easier than dealing with the complexity of truth. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change 5 years. No, but maybe. Alaric's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and cursed. The ceremony, it's starting. Elder Thomas stood slowly. We'll continue this discussion afterward. For now, we maintain appearances. Seraphine, you're a guest. Alaric, you're the patriarch. We'll handle this like civilized people. And after, Seraphine asked, after we'll find the truth, even if it destroys everything we thought we knew. They filed out of the study. The conversation had changed everything, but nothing could be resolved until after the ceremony. Appearances had to be maintained. In the hallway, Martha had Leo by the hand. The boy was examining a bronze sculpture of a wolf. Everything okay? Martha asked quietly. We're going to find out. The great room had been rearranged for the ceremony. Chairs formed a semicircle facing the fireplace. A podium had been set up. Council members filled the front rows. Seraphine, Martha, and Leo took seats in the back. Observers. Witnesses. Isabella stood near the podium with Owen adjusting his tie, whispering instructions. The boy looked miserable. Alaric took his place at the front beside Elder Thomas. His eyes found Seraphine's across the room. A look passed between them, complicated, painful, unresolved. Then Elder Thomas called the room to order, and the ceremony began. The inheritance ceremony was theater designed to intimidate. Elder Thomas recited family history going back 6 generations. The building of the Stone Empire. The legacy of protection and power. Then Alaric spoke, talking about the future. About continuity. About passing the torch to the next generation. He didn't look at Owen while he spoke. His eyes kept drifting to Leo, Isabella noticed. Her smile grew more fixed, more desperate. And now, Elder Thomas announced, we present Owen Alaric Stone Heir, apparent to Stone Security Holdings. Applause. Owen was led forward small and uncomfortable in the spotlight. Isabella beamed beside him, one hand possessively on his shoulder. Owen, Elder Thomas continued, as heir, you are bound by blood and duty to uphold the Stone legacy. Do you accept this responsibility? Owen looked confused. He was 5. He had no idea what he was accepting. Say yes, Isabella hissed. Yes, Owen mumbled. More applause. It felt hollow, rehearsed. Seraphine watched Alaric's face. He looked like a man at a funeral, Grief and doubt wore in his expression. Then Leo, who'd been remarkably patient, stood up on his chair to see better. "Mommy, why is everyone clapping?" His voice carried in the momentary silence. Every head turned. Leo, standing on the chair in his tiny suit, blue eyes bright and curious, looked so much like the portraits on the walls that several council members gasped. Isabella's face went white, then red, then twisted into something ugly. "Sit down," she snapped at Seraphine. "Control your child." "He's 4, he asked a question. "This is a private ceremony. If you can't maintain decorum—" "I was invited." Seraphine stood calm and deliberate. "My son has every right to be here. Your bastard has no right to anything." The word landed like a bomb. The room went silent. Alaric's voice cut through the tension. "Isabella, that's enough." "Enough, she crashes our son's ceremony with some child she's clearly using to—" "To what?" Seraphine's voice was diamond hard. "To tell the truth, to show you what Alaric's real son looks like. Owen is Alaric's son. Then prove it. DNA test, right now, both boys. We'll settle this once and for all." Isabella's composure shattered. "You have no right to demand anything. You were thrown out of this family for being defective." "I was thrown out because you paid Dr. Cross to lie about me." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" Seraphine pulled out her phone, pulled up the bank records. $5 million. Transferred from your father's account to Cross 3 days before my exam. Explain that? Isabella grabbed for the phone. Seraphine pulled it back. Kalen appeared from nowhere, positioning himself between them. "Mrs. Stone," he said quietly, "step back." "Whose side are you on?" Isabella shrieked at him. "The truth, Swede." The room erupted, council members talking over each other, guests pulling out phones, Damian Sterling watching everything with undisguised glee. Elder Thomas banged his cane on the floor. "Silence," everyone froze. "This ceremony," the elder said slowly, "is postponed, indefinitely, until we can verify the legitimacy of all claims being made tonight." "You can't do that," Isabella lunged toward him. "Owen is the heir. This is his right. Rights are earned through truth, not deception." Elder Thomas turned to Alaric. "As patriarch, you must make the call. DNA testing. Both boys. Official and witnessed." Alaric looked at Owen, then at Leo, then at Seraphine. "Do it," he said quietly. "Test them both. I want to know the truth." Isabella's scream was primal. She grabbed Owen and ran for the exit. Kalen moved to intercept, but she was faster. The front door slammed. An engine roared to life. "She's running," someone said unnecessarily. Alaric was already moving phone to his ear. "Lock down the estate. No one leaves. Find Isabella and bring her back." But through the window, they could all see the Range Rover speeding down the driveway, kicking up gravel and snow. Isabella was gone, and she'd taken Owen with her. Seraphine pulled Leo close, her heart pounding. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Isabella wasn't supposed to run, unless she had something far worse to hide than anyone had imagined. Alaric turned to Seraphine, his face ashen. "If she runs, if she takes Owen across state lines, she won't get far. You have resources. And you don't understand. If Owen isn't mine, if Isabella has been lying for 5 years, then she's committed fraud on a scale that could bring down everything. She'll do anything to protect herself, including hurting Owen." His silence was answer enough. Seraphine looked down at Leo, safe in her arms, and understood with sudden, terrible clarity. Isabella wasn't just running from exposure. She was running from consequences. And a desperate woman with everything to lose was the most dangerous thing in the world. The Jackson Hole Police Department arrived within 15 minutes. 2 patrol cars' lights flashing against the darkening Wyoming sky. Chief Roberts was a man in his 50s who'd known the Stone family for decades. He took Alaric's statement in the study while Seraphine waited with Leo in the great room. The guests had been detained. No one was permitted to leave until statements were taken. Damian Sterling sat in a corner typing furiously on his phone, probably leaking the story to financial press. The council members huddled in angry clusters debating liability and damage control. Martha kept Leo occupied with a picture book someone had found, but the boy was growing restless and frightened. Too many police. Too many raised voices. "Mommy, I want to go home," he whispered. "Soon, baby, I promise." Kalen approached, radio in hand. "We found the Range Rover." Seraphine looked up sharply. "Where?" "Abandoned at a rest stop 20 miles north. Engine still warm. No sign of Isabella or Owen." She switched vehicles. "Probably had it planned. This wasn't panic. This was exit strategy." Kalen's jaw was tight. "We've issued an Amber Alert. Highway Patrol is searching. But if she had this planned, she could be anywhere." Alaric emerged from the study, Chief Roberts behind him. He looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago. "They're treating it as parental kidnapping," he said. Isabella has legal custody as Owen's mother, but taking him across state lines while fleeing investigation constitutes criminal flight. What about the fraud charges? Seraphine asked. The bank records you showed me, we need the originals, official documentation. Can you provide that? My investigator has everything. I'll call him now. Seraphine stepped into the hallway and dialed James Chen. He answered on the first ring. Mrs. Ashford, I've been watching the news. Quite the disruption. Isabella ran. She took Owen. I need you to send everything you have to the Jackson Hole police immediately. Bank records, timeline, analysis, hospital documentation, everything. Already done. I sent it to your email 30 minutes ago when I saw the alerts. Forward it to whoever needs it. You're a lifesaver. I'm a professional. But Mrs. Ashford, be careful. Richard Vane is still alive, still powerful. If his daughter is exposed, he'll use every resource to protect her. Let him try. She hung up and forwarded the files to Chief Roberts. Within minutes, the police chief was on the phone with the FBI. Wire fraud across state lines. Conspiracy. Medical fraud. The charges were stacking up. Elder Thomas called an emergency council session. The 12 members gathered in the library, grim-faced and furious. Seraphine was invited to attend. So was Alaric. Martha stayed with Leo. The room smelled like old books and older money. Elder Thomas sat at the head of the table. We have a crisis, he began, not just of succession, but of legitimacy. The integrity of this family has been called into question. By an outsider, one council member, Lawrence Drummond, snapped. He was a lawyer 65 with no patience for scandal. Seraphine Ashford has no standing here. She was divorced 5 years ago. She has standing as the mother of a potential heir, Elder Thomas corrected, and her evidence is compelling. Evidence that could be fabricated. Could be, Seraphine said calmly, but isn't. I have bank records, hospital records, DNA test results, everything documented and verifiable. How much documentation does Isabella have? Silence. That's what I thought. Seraphine looked around the table. 5 years ago, you watched Alaric destroy me based on one doctor's word. No second opinion, no verification, just blind acceptance because it fit the narrative you wanted. We trusted Dr. Cross, another council member said defensively. You trusted money. Isabella's father paid Cross $5 million to lie. That's not trust, that's corruption. Alaric spoke for the first time. The question isn't what happened 5 years ago. It's what we do now. Owen is missing. Isabella's in the wind. And we have 2 potential heirs, one present, one absent. You want to disinherit Owen? Lawrence looked horrified. I want the truth. DNA test, official witnessed, court admissible. Leo and Owen both tested against my DNA. We'll know within 72 hours who my biological son is. And if it's neither, someone asked, then I have no heir and the council must make alternative arrangements. Alaric's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. But I believe Leo is my son. Look at him. He has my eyes, my grandfather's jaw, the stone markers. Resemblance isn't proof. No, science is proof. So let's get the science. Elder Thomas nodded slowly. Motion to authorize immediate DNA testing. All in favor. 8 hands rose. 4 abstained. No one voted against. Motion carries. We'll arrange testing first thing tomorrow morning. Elder Thomas looked at Seraphine. Will you consent to Leo being tested? Yes, I want the truth as much as you do. And if the results prove he's Alaric's son, then Leo is the rightful heir, and you'll owe me 5 years of apologies. The council meeting dissolved into logistics. Lawyers, labs, chain of custody protocols. Seraphine excused herself and returned to the great room. Leo had fallen asleep on the couch, his head in Martha's lap. The old woman stroked his hair gently. How bad? Martha asked quietly. DNA test tomorrow. Results in 3 days. Isabella's in the wind with Owen. That poor child. Which one? Both. Seraphine sat down heavily. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion in its wake. I didn't want this. I wanted justice, not a manhunt. Sometimes justice requires a reckoning. Owen's just a kid. He didn't ask to be part of Isabella's scheme. Neither did Leo. Neither did you. Martha's voice was firm. You're not responsible for Isabella's choices. You're responsible for protecting your son and telling the truth. That's all. A commotion at the entrance. Voices raised. Then Chief Roberts appeared with a woman Seraphine didn't recognize. Late 50s, elegant in an understated way, carrying herself with quiet authority. Mrs. Catherine Vane, the chief announced. Richard Vane's sister. She's asking to speak with Mr. Stone. Alaric appeared from the hallway. Catherine. Alaric. The woman's voice was cultured, controlled. I came as soon as I heard. Is it true? Has Isabella taken Owen? Yes. Dear God. Catherine closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were full of pain. I was afraid something like this would happen. What do you mean? May we speak privately? They moved to the study. Alaric, Catherine, Chief Roberts, and Seraphine. The door closed. Catherine Vane sat down carefully, clutching her handbag. My brother Richard has been unwell for several years. Early onset dementia. He's in a care facility in Connecticut. I didn't know, Alaric said. We kept it quiet, but it means his finances have been managed by a conservator for the past 3 years. That conservator is me. Why are you telling us this? Catherine opened her handbag and pulled out a folder. 2 months ago, I discovered irregularities in Richard's accounts. Large wire transfers I hadn't authorized. When I investigated, I found... She handed the folder to Alaric. I found these. Alaric opened the folder. His face went pale. Jesus Christ. Oh, what is it? Seraphine asked. He handed her a document. It was an email printed and dated. From Isabella to her father, June 2019. Daddy Cross agreed to the plan. $5 million for false diagnosis. Another $5 million when I'm pregnant with the heir. Alaric will never know. By the time the dementia takes you fully, I'll be set for life. I love you. Thank you for always protecting me. Bella. Seraphine read it twice, then a third time. She was planning this from the beginning, she whispered. Before I was even diagnosed. Before Owen was conceived. She planned to steal everything. There's more. Catherine pulled out another document. DNA test results. Dated March 2020, Owen's biological father is Kalen Morrison. The room went silent. Kalen, Alaric's voice was barely audible. My head of security, my best friend since childhood. According to the test, yes. I found it in Isabella's safety deposit box when I was organizing Richard's estate. Does Kalen know? I don't know, but Isabella clearly did. She had the test done privately. She knew Owen wasn't yours, and she proceeded with the fraud anyway. Chief Roberts was already on his radio. Get Kalen Morrison, now. Kalen arrived 5 minutes later, confusion on his face. What's going on? Alaric handed him the DNA results without a word. Kalen read them, the color drained from his face. No, this is wrong. Is it? Alaric's voice was dangerous. Did you sleep with Isabella? Once, one time, 6 years ago before you even met Seraphine. It was a mistake. We were drunk at a charity event in spring 2018. She said it meant nothing. When exactly? April, maybe early May 2018. Alaric did the math. Owen was born February 2020. If he was conceived in May 2019, the timeline matches for a 9-month pregnancy. Kalen's face crumbled. She came to me again. May 2019. Said you were distant after divorcing Seraphine. Said she needed comfort, that she was scared and alone. It was one night, one mistake. I thought it didn't matter because she was already with you, already pregnant with your child. I never imagined... His voice broke. Alaric, I swear to God I didn't know. If I had known Owen was mine, if I had known about any of this, I would have told you. You bastard. Alaric lunged. Chief Roberts and Seraphine both moved to intercept, but Alaric was faster. His fist connected with Kalen's jaw. The bigger man went down hard. Alaric, stop! Seraphine grabbed his arm. He slept with my wife. He fathered the child I've been raising as my heir. He didn't know Isabella manipulated all of you. Alaric was breathing hard, fists still clenched. Kalen was on the floor, blood trickling from his split lip. Did you know, Alaric demanded, about Seraphine being pregnant, about the fraud? No, I swear, I suspected the fertility diagnosis was wrong. I told you that when we met. But I didn't know about Leo. I didn't know Owen was mine. Kalen looked up, pain in his eyes. If I had known any of this, I would have told you. You're my brother Alaric. Not by blood, but by choice. Some choice. Chief Roberts helped Kalen to his feet. Mr. Morrison, you're going to need to come down to the station, answer some questions. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but material witness to fraud at minimum. Possibly accessory after the fact if it's determined you helped cover up suspicions. Kalen nodded numbly. He looked at Seraphine. I'm sorry for all of it, for not protecting you 5 years ago, for being part of this mess. You were a victim too, Seraphine said quietly. Isabella used all of us. He was let out. Catherine Vane stood gathering her papers. I've given Chief Roberts everything I found in Richard's files. Bank records, emails, the DNA test. It should be enough to charge Isabella with fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement from a protected person. "Why are you helping us?" Alaric asked. "She's your niece. She's a criminal who took advantage of my brother's illness to steal from him and from you. Family loyalty has limits." Catherine's voice was steel. "Find Owen. Make sure he's safe. He's an innocent child who deserves better than Isabella as a mother." She left. The study felt smaller now, just Alaric, Seraphine, and the wreckage of 5 years of lies. "I'm sorry," Alaric said finally, "for everything and for not trusting you, for not questioning Cross, for choosing pride over truth. Apologies don't fix the past." "I know, but maybe they can start to fix the future." He looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "Is he really mine, Leo?" "Yes." Can I see him, talk to him?" "Not tonight. He's exhausted and frightened. Tomorrow after the DNA test if he's ready." "Fair." Alaric ran a hand through his hair. "I have a son, a real son, 4 years old, and I've missed everything. First steps, first words, birthdays." "Yes, you have. Is there any way to make this right?" Seraphine looked at him. Really looked. She saw the man she'd married buried under years of regret and bad choices. But she also saw the man who'd thrown her away without a second thought. "That depends," she said carefully, "on what kind of father you want to be. Leo doesn't need a king. He needs a dad, someone who shows up, someone who stays." "I can do that." "Can you? Because the first time he disappoints you, the first time he doesn't live up to the Stone legacy expectations, you can't throw him away like you did me." "I won't, I swear." "Words are easy, Alaric. Actions matter. Prove it." The Amber Alert worked. A gas station attendant in Montana recognized Isabella and Owen from the photos. She'd stopped for fuel and supplies, paying cash, looking nervous. Police traced her route. She was heading north toward the Canadian border. Highway patrols set up checkpoints. At 2 a.m. they found her, a traffic stop on Route 93, 15 miles from the border. Isabella in a stolen Honda, Owen asleep in the back seat, 3 fake passports in her bag. She was arrested without incident. Owen was placed in protective custody. The next morning, the DNA tests were conducted. Leo went first. He sat on Seraphine's lap while a technician swabbed his cheek, brave and curious. "Does it hurt?" he asked. Not at all," the technician said. "You're doing great." Then Alaric's sample. Then Owen's collected at the police station where he was being held temporarily. The samples were sent to 3 separate labs. Chain of custody documented. Council members as witnesses. Everything by the book. Results would take 72 hours. Seraphine spent those 3 days in a strange limbo. The story had broken nationally. Stone Heir scandal led every financial news broadcast. Phoenix Innovations stock actually went up. People were buying into the company of the woman who'd exposed Manhattan corruption. Leo didn't understand why people wanted to take his picture. Martha ran interference, keeping him sheltered in the hotel suite. On the 4th day, the results came back. Elder Thomas called another council meeting. Everyone gathered in the Stone Mansion library. Alaric, Seraphine, the 12 council members, Chief Roberts, lawyers representing the state, and Owen. The little boy sat quietly between 2 social workers, looking small and lost. Isabella was in jail. Kalen was facing fraud charges as an accessory. After the fact, he'd helped cover up suspicions, even if he hadn't known the full truth. Owen had no one. Elder Thomas opened the sealed envelope from the lab. He read it in silence. Then he looked up. "The results are conclusive. Owen Vane's DNA shows 0 paternal markers matching Alaric Stone. He is not biologically related to the Stone family." Isabella's last defense crumbled. She would face trial for fraud, conspiracy, kidnapping, and embezzlement. Elder Thomas opened the second envelope. Leo Ashford's DNA shows 99.97% paternal match to Alaric Stone. He is the biological son and rightful heir. The room erupted. Not in anger this time, in something like relief. The truth was finally known. Seraphine looked at Owen. The boy was crying quietly, understanding enough to know he'd lost everything. His mother, his name, his future. She stood and walked over to him, knelt down to his level. "Owen, honey, none of this is your fault. Do you understand that?" He nodded, tears streaming. "You're a good kid. You deserve good things. That's not going to change." "But I'm not a Stone." "No, but you're still special. You're still important." "What's going to happen to me?" Seraphine looked at the social workers, at the council, at Alaric. "We'll figure it out," she promised. "Together." 6 months later, the world had shifted. Isabella Vane faced 23 years in federal prison. Her trial was swift, the evidence overwhelming. Bank records, emails, DNA results, testimony from Catherine Vane. She showed no remorse, maintaining to the end that she'd done what was necessary to survive. Dr. Raymond Cross lost his medical license and faced separate criminal charges. His testimony against Isabella reduced his sentence to 8 years. His practice was shuttered, his reputation destroyed. Richard Vane passed away quietly in his care facility in March, never knowing his daughter had used his illness to commit fraud. Catherine Vane established a foundation in his name to support dementia research and financial elder abuse prevention. Kalen Morrison pled guilty to being an accessory and received 5 years probation plus community service. He resigned from Stone Security and moved to Montana, opening a small security consulting firm. Alaric never spoke to him again, but Seraphine sent him a card at Christmas. Some bridges, she believed, deserved not to be completely burned. Owen was placed with Catherine Vane, who'd petitioned for custody. She was his great aunt and genuinely loved him. She promised to give him stability therapy and a chance at a normal life away from the scandal. Seraphine testified at every hearing, making sure the court understood Owen was a victim, not a criminal. The boy deserved protection, not punishment. 3 months after the trial, Catherine brought Owen to Seattle. The two boys, half-brothers by blood through Kalen, though strangers by circumstance, met in a quiet park near Seraphine's condo. Leo shared his dinosaur facts enthusiastically. Owen listened, then showed Leo how to skip rocks across the pond. "Are we friends?" Owen asked carefully. "We're brothers," Leo said matter-of-factly, as if it were obvious. "Brothers are better than friends." Alaric watched from a distance, tears in his eyes. He'd raised Owen for 5 years. Biology didn't erase that bond entirely. The love had been real, even if the foundation was false. He sent birthday gifts, called once a month, made sure Owen knew you were loved even if you weren't mine. You still matter. Catherine sent updates regularly. Owen was healing, slowly. The nightmares were fading. He'd started calling her Aunt Kathy. He asked about Leo often, about whether they could visit again. Maybe someday, when Owen was older, the boys would be close. Maybe not. But at least Owen would know he hadn't been erased. He still had value. His story didn't end with his mother's crimes. And Leo met his father slowly, carefully. Alaric flew to Seattle every Saturday, spending the day with his son. No cameras, no press, no Stone family obligations. Just a man learning to be a dad. They went to the Woodland Park Zoo, built elaborate Lego cities, visited the Museum of Flight. Alaric was awkward at first, unsure how to connect with a 4-year-old who'd lived an entire lifetime without him. But he tried. He showed up. He stayed. "Does Daddy love us now?" Leo asked Seraphine one night after Alaric had left. "He's learning how," she answered honestly. "Is he going to go away again?" "I don't think so, but if he does, we'll be okay. We always are." Leo considered this, then nodded, satisfied with an answer that didn't promise impossible things. The Stone Family Council formally recognized Leo as the heir apparent. Trust funds were established, security details assigned, educational consultants hired. But Seraphine negotiated hard. Leo would stay in Seattle until he was 18. He'd attend normal schools, have normal friends, play soccer and take piano lessons, and go to birthday parties like any other kid. The Stone legacy would wait. Childhood wouldn't. Alaric agreed to everything. He'd lost 5 years. He wasn't losing anymore. As for Seraphine and Alaric, there was no fairy tale reconciliation. The damage was too deep, the trust too broken. Some things once shattered can't be made whole again. But they found something else. Partnership, mutual respect, co-parenting done right. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" Alaric asked one Saturday evening. They were sitting on her Seattle patio while Leo played with Spike in the yard, making the dinosaur fight imaginary volcanoes. "I don't know," Seraphine said honestly, "but I don't hate you anymore. That's progress." "It is. You threw me away, Alaric. That doesn't just disappear because you're sorry now." "I know. But you're trying. You're showing up for Leo. That matters. I want to show up for you too, as whatever you'll let me be. Friend, partner, someday maybe more." Seraphine looked at him, at the gray in his hair that hadn't been there 5 years ago, at the lines around his eyes from stress and regret, at the man who'd destroyed her and was now painstakingly trying to build something new. "Maybe someday," she allowed, "but today we're Leo's parents. That's enough. It's more than I deserve." "Yes, it is." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Leo chase butterflies in the fading light. The boy laughed, carefree and whole. He didn't carry their damage. He had his mother's strength and his father's eyes in a future that belonged to him alone. The Stone legacy would continue. But it would be different this time, built on truth, not lies, on love, not duty, on a woman who'd been called broken and proved she was unbreakable. In the years that followed, Phoenix Innovations went public. Seraphine became one of the youngest female CEOs in tech history. She used her platform to advocate for women in STEM, for single mothers, for anyone who'd been told they were broken or defective or less than. She established a foundation, the Second Chances Initiative. It provided legal aid, medical support, and financial assistance to women escaping abusive situations. Dr. Cross's $2 million settlement went directly into the fund. Leo grew up knowing both his parents, knowing his worth didn't come from a bloodline, but from character. He split his time between Seattle and occasional weekends in New York. He called Seraphine mom and Alaric dad, and understood that families could be complicated and still be real. Damian Sterling's attempt to leverage the scandal backfired spectacularly. His leaks to financial press made him look opportunistic and cruel, capitalizing on a woman's trauma and a child's legitimacy crisis. Sterling Tech lost 3 major contracts. His board forced him out within a year. He sent Seraphine one last email. "You win." She never replied. Some victories didn't need acknowledgement. And somewhere in a medium-security federal prison in upstate New York, Isabella Vane watched it all unfold on a television in the common room. She watched Seraphine's success, Leo's growth, Alaric's transformation. She understood too late that some women don't stay destroyed when you throw them away. Some women burn down the world that tried to bury them and build something better from the ashes. On Leo's 5th birthday, Alaric flew to Seattle with a gift. Not expensive, not flashy, a photo album. Inside were pictures Alaric had collected, some from his own childhood showing the stone blue eyes going back generations, some from the past year Leo and Alaric at the zoo building, Legos flying kites. And on the last page, a photo someone had taken without them knowing. Seraphine and Alaric sitting on her patio, Leo playing in the yard between them. Not touching, not together, but present, connected by the child they'd made and the future they were building. "What's this for?" Leo asked, flipping through the pages. "So you know where you come from," Alaric said, "and so you never forget how strong your mother is." Seraphine's eyes stung. She looked away. "Are you and Mommy going to get married again?" Leo asked with 5-year-old directness. "I don't know, buddy. That's up to your mom." Leo turned to Seraphine. "Do you want to marry Daddy?" "Someday I might," she said carefully. "But right now I'm happy the way things are." "Okay," Leo shrugged, already distracted by the other gifts. "Can I have cake now?" They laughed. Life went on. Not perfect, not healed, but moving forward. And on that patio in Seattle with a 5-year-old boy covered in frosting, and a man who'd learned that power means nothing without integrity, and a woman who'd survived being thrown away and came back stronger, something like peace settled. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. And sometimes that's enough.